Track driving in motorsports can seem daunting and expensive, but how much do you really need to spend on a car just to get out there and drive? The 2003 BMW 325i, which you are looking at, is an inexpensive and easy to find option, and it just so happens to be mine. But what about an alternative? This early generation Mazda Miata was purchased used for $7,000, only a bit more than the E46 generation BMW, and it already had some track-specific parts. Like me, the owner began shaping it into his ideal track car. He got a Willwood brake kit, upgraded the cooling, and with better suspension and sticky tires, he has tons of fun on weekend track days. As you can see, these are not show cars. They are meant to be driven, and we love them for that. So at a comparable price of well under $10,000, which of these rear-wheel drive bargains can bring more smiles on a wet day at Toronto Motorsports Park?
It is completely pouring. The track is absolutely soaked, but this might be a good thing because I get to see what these cars are like at the limit very easily. All right, so let's find out exactly what the 325 E46 is like as a fun track toy. Now, I can already comment on that obviously because it is mine, but we're about to experience it a little bit more at the limit.
Now at this point you're probably thinking, this is a heavy four-door sedan. It barely has 200 horsepower. How much fun can it possibly be? A lot of fun is the answer.
The advantage to a car like this is that you're not really that worried about it. So you can learn the limits. And this is not a $100,000 car. So I can go out, slide the car around a little bit, and not be too worried if I have to spin off onto the grass, really. Like that. So the suspension modifications that I've done okay, make it actually quite easy to predict the body motion when you start to slide. So stiffer suspension is definitely something, if you have one of these cars as a track toy, that you want to invest in, because I find it very predictable when it's starting to go and when I'm going to spin. The thing that I like the most about the E46 chassis, and why I think it makes a very good track car, is that the steering is fantastic. It communicates everything very, very well. And it has a very quick ratio. Now the E36 has a slightly slower ratio than this. So that means I need less lock to get myself going into the corner. Right? So that makes it feel a little bit more race car-ish, really. Yep. Fun. Oh, it's just like you come out on a slightly wet day or you find a skid pad, and for $6,000, I can't think of something that I would rather do, to be honest. Easy, cheap, no consequence, sidewaysness. And this track is perfect for that. Toronto Motorsport Park has nothing to hit, right? So I can just go in, huck the car. I've gone on the grass twice today already. Woohoo! I'm happy with this car, but the question is, did I make the right choice? Should I have gone for something a little bit smaller and a little bit sportier, like the Miata? I think it's time to take that out on this track and see just what it's capable of. Is it worth the lack of daily driving ability to get that extra little bit of sportiness on the track?
Now the owner has put a little bit more into this than I have into mine. He has an aggressive alignment, better brakes, and with no driver assistance and a limited slip differential, this car looks like it's shaping up to be the more ideal track car. Of course, there are some comfort compromises you have to make for that.
All right, we are in the Miata. Right away, this is a much more cramped and aggressive driving experience. We've got a racing seat, racing harnesses, roll bar. Pretty much everything about it is for the track. Okay, the steering is not powered, so right away I thought my BMW had feel. Oh, this feels good. Yeah, that's really nice. The steering ratio is wonderful, and holy, is it ever flat through the corners. There goes the tail. Oh, this is a great little car. Okay, so he bought this car for about $7,000, as I said, and he said around $1,500, somewhere around into it. So it came with a few of the things. So you can buy a car like this on the used market for about that much money. All right, we limit oversteer so easily in this. Holy, oh, that's just lovely. Now, this car is set up way better than mine. Mine's on coilovers too, so it could potentially be set up this well. But the way that he's got this set up is that you turn into the corner and there's just so much more front grip than you think there should be, and then the car starts to limit oversteer. I get rotation without having to do it with the throttle, which is a huge advantage for getting that front grip and getting your proper line through the corner. So if you have a car like this, you get coilovers, you can set it up, and essentially what I've got here right now is a little mini race car. Since I'm so locked into the seat, you get a racing seat and harnesses like this, you feel every little movement in the car. Now the throttle response in mine is a little bit better just because it's naturally aspirated and it has a light flywheel. But it's not like I'm hurting for throttle response in this. It's making lots of good noises, and boost comes on quite quickly. Sounds great. Yeah, that's good. This is a fun little car. I'm very cramped, I'll be honest. I'm very cramped. The driver's a little bit shorter than me, and the seat is bolted to the ground, so it can't move. So not exactly practical if you are looking to trade drivers with somebody, but I'll make do. It's a very, very connected driving experience, one of these old Miatas. I'm having a great time in this car. So right away I can tell you that as a pure track toy, this one wins over the BMW without a question. But is it worth the lack of practicality and noise and discomfort maybe that something like this comes with? If you can afford a second driver, second car, then yeah, obviously. But I don't know, can you? Oh, we can spin the tires easily in the straightaway. That's scary. Woo! This is a much more involving car than the BMW. And I'm not saying that you can't make a BMW this involving, but for the pretty much the same price that we've put into them, if you're looking for just a track toy, look for a Miata. Now, these are a little bit harder to find than an E46, which is one of the reasons really why I looked at an E46.
At this point, I started driving the car a bit harder, and honestly, talking went out the window. All I could do was make my concentration face. In a car without anti-lock brakes, traction control, and with performance rubber in the wet, all of your brain power goes to keeping the car on the track and off the grass.
You can slide it.
Naturally, my attempts at drifting were pretty short-lived.
We didn't stall. That's important. Reverse. Oh, the power steering. Oh. If you wanted to go out and get some more milk in this car, it's a full-blown workout. Oh. I personally would not use this car every day if I had it. So therein lies the downside.
I really did like driving this Miata. It's well balanced and the owner has done a great job with his build. I did start to wonder though how my racing driver was going to manage each of these cars, considering they are both on performance rubber really meant for a dry track. Let's find out. Let's take a look at the BMW 325i. Now this car is on BF Goodrich G-Force Rivals, which is a pretty sticky tire meant for the dry, not for the wet, so keep that in mind when you're watching the lap. That means this car is going to be all about managing front grip, so you'll watch in pretty much every corner his inputs are super smooth and super delicate to get the car turned in properly. Because of these conditions, I doubt you're going to be seeing this car generating any huge cornering forces, but you probably will hear the open diff spin the inside tire as he tries to power out of a corner. There he is turning the windshield wiper blades on. That's probably necessary. Now this corner here coming up is great for drifting, which means we're probably going to see him get a little bit sideways. Let's take a look. Braking late, turning in, carefully managing right towards the apex, trying to get on the power on the way out, and there's some opposite lock because the tail went. Coming up to the chicane here, very careful through here so we can set it up for this next corner. Heel toe downshift in a second. Trying to manage the front grip from the tires, trying to get everything you can, a little bit opposite lock. Coming around here, I went wide on this corner pretty much every single time I went through it. The car does not like to build front grip in that area, and it understeers very severely. This corner here is usually done very quickly, but he has to be very, very careful to set the car up for these last two corners. Otherwise, he'd have too much speed trying to carry through here. Yep, wow, 40 kilometers an hour. That's not very fast. Alright, let's get the power down as much as we can on the straightaway to see what the best time we can possibly pull is. And we do a 2:03.4. That's not very fast. Let's take a look at the Miata. Okay, the Mazda Miata. This is on Hankook RS3s, and these are arguably a better tire, but not that it matters that much because we are in the wet. However, the suspension geometry and the setup of this car does. This car has much more negative camber in the front, almost 2 degrees more than the BMW, so that really does help getting the car turned in and allowing the car to rotate. Now you'll see his entry speed to the corners is a little bit faster than the BMW just because you can get the front to grip. Now this car is a little bit more of a handful. It does not have anti-lock brakes and it does like to rotate, so you'll notice that the driver is a little bit more active on the steering wheel. Now coming up to this corner here, the BMW got a little bit out of shape. Let's see if the Miata does the same. Turned in a little bit more aggressively, a much easier line through there. And no, actually a fair amount of grip on the exit. That's pretty good. Going through the chicane, that looks a little bit faster than the BMW too. An aggressive downshift, and he's sideways. Look at that. Very nice. Turning in here, the BMW like to wash wide very severely. This one just looks like it's gripping and gripping and gripping, and he's sideways again. Okay, these last few corners are very important. He has to manage the grip properly so that he can carry as much speed as possible onto the straight. The BMW like to wash wide through here, but it looks like the Miata is carrying a lot more speed. This car makes some fantastic noises with the turbo blow-off bouncing off the wall beside you. Alright, let's see what kind of a time he can pull here. We have a 1:54.9. Very nice. That is significantly faster than the BMW. There you go. I really would like to revisit these cars in the dry, because I think the Miata is capable of some serious lap times, and I want to see how the BMW can stack up as my build continues. As I was driving these around the track, I realized that I was learning a lot about myself as a driver, especially in the wet. And really, that's the point of buying a budget track car. It's something that you can get your hands dirty with, tune and modify, and then push to its limits. For under $10,000, the BMW really is a very good option for a rear-wheel drive car that is easy to find on the used market and is loads of fun on the track. But if you want to ditch the practicality, buy a second car maybe, and build a very pure driving machine. For this price, a Miata really is the answer.